the rest of the show, we are going to have some fun with something we talk about every year. It's a term that I love to embrace, and that is the idea of draft crushes. We all have those players. We all have those players that, you know, from the Senior Bowl, maybe even from this college football season on, you're just like, that guy needs to be a Bear. That guy, I need that guy to be a Bear, even if, you know, in some cases it's not even that realistic. Like probably my first guy here, unless the Bears move around. For Lawrence, just real quick, what we're gonna do is we'll go back and forth. So I'll do my first one, then Nick will go. We'll do it in the order that's in the rundown there, because we do have some graphics to throw on the screen for you here as well. So I will start this off. Guy I haven't talked about in a while, but I've certainly talked about him a lot going back to the fall. This is why I keep saying draft a center #1 overall. That's right. Pass on Caleb Williams. Go center. Not really, but maybe grab him at #9. I will certainly not sit there and complain if that were to happen. It's probably not going to happen, but I wouldn't complain about it. Jackson Powers-Johnson, the center from Oregon, is my #1 draft crush. 6'3", 320, winner of the Remington Trophy last year. My favorite stat about him is that he moves to center. He's got a one-year wonder. He just moved there last year. Allowed 1 hurry all season. Not sack, hurry. It's about as perfect of a season as you could possibly have. Never allowed a sack in 3 years with the Ducks. Of course, he wasn't a full-time starter until last year. But in terms of plug-and-play centers, he is right at the top of the list. Power, mobility. He fits the Bears scheme. He's a big. We don't need these tiny centers in there anymore. Just draft a guy. Figure out the most problem position on this line for years now has been the center spot. By the way, just in case you're wondering, he can snap the ball too accurately.
Yeah. Yep.
Priority #1, which turned into a JV high school problem for the Bears last year. I'm trying to figure out how it happens. I'm in the extreme rarity of saying if you draft him at 9, I wouldn't have a problem with it. Most people are going to say don't draft the center that's that high. That's fine. I think it would be justified. More likely the Bears would have to trade back. Maybe they end up with them later in the teens or something like that. If it were to happen, it probably won't. They already used a 5th round pick on a center by going and getting Ryan Bates. So I'm not holding my breath too far, but he is my #1 draft crush in this class, Nick.
Yeah, Adam, we were doing our little meeting earlier today, and you said Jackson Powers-Johnson. I'm like, damn it. Like that's a guy that's probably a lot
I called dibs.
You called dibs. You got him. But really good player. And if he somehow ends up to the Bears, will not complain. This is a guy that I fell in love with when I was down in Mobile, Alabama, getting a terrible tan. As I was in the sun, but I'm watching a lot of the wide receivers. I'm watching all these guys and love watching route running. And I love me some Ladd McConkey out of Georgia, 5'11", 186 pounds. 2023 season was dealing with some injuries, but 30 receptions, 478 yards, 2 touchdowns. But like I was saying earlier, route running is a big thing for me. Guys that are able to separate, knows how to set up defenders, understands how to gain the right angles on guys, and just turn DBs around, and he does that really well in those in-breaking cuts where you just see that separation become even further as Ladd McConkey sent up the route and just kind of accelerating from defenders. But this is a guy that I think if you're looking for somebody like a rookie quarterback to come in who makes their job's life easier, someone that gets open. And the Bears do have guys like that with Keenan Allen, DJ Moore, but why can't you have another one in Ladd McConkey, who doesn't have to be the #1, but can learn from guys like that? And again, this is a scenario just like Jackson Powers-Johnson. I don't know how the Bears could get this guy. Maybe if it's a trade back scenario, he's looking, if depending on how you look at it with all these wide receivers, he may fit in at the back of day 1, but he's probably that day 2 guy. And obviously the Bears don't have that many draft picks this season, but I love me some Ladd McConkey and just the way he runs routes. It's wherever he goes, I'm going to be watching to see how he does.
Yeah. He's to me, he's one of the more automatic picks in the draft that you're not going to regret. Is he going to go to the Hall of Fame? I don't know about that, but I think he's one of the safer picks in the entire draft. He's going to be probably a plug and play, high upside player right away for you, even as a rookie. My next guy, we stay with the offensive line. And I got to say, The beast came out a couple days ago, and Dane Brugler surprised me with two things here on this player. But this is a guy, the more and more homework I've done on him, I like him a lot. And again, someone you probably not maybe picking a 9, but if the Bears trade back, could be in play, and that's Troy Fautanu, the guy I'm still calling an offensive tackle from Washington. He's 6'3". He's actually closer to 6'4". He's about 6'3 3/4, 317. That's what he weighed in at the combine, and was the left tackle for Washington last year. Only allowed 2 career sacks. And what Dane surprised me with, I'll give you the first thing. He has him at number 9 overall on his draft board. So I was like, yes, Dane loves him too. However, the catch is he has him as a guard. His number 1 guard, not a tackle, but still that high. So I get it, because that size isn't necessarily your ideal tackle. I mean, we're talking about Joe Alt being 6'8", right? But that's almost too tall. The thing is, though, his arms are fine. 34.5-inch arms. It's not like that's a concern here. Yeah, the height is not ideal. Even the weight is not necessarily ideal too. But if you watch this guy work out at the combine, we don't put all the stock in the world in that, obviously, but it shows up on his film too. He's running around like a tight end out there. Like, I think he could have done the tight end drills and been and fit in. I mean, that's how smooth he was moving around, and his speed grade, if you look at his RAS score, his speed grade was elite. His explosion grade was elite. He ranked 72 out of nearly 1,300 offensive tackles from, since 1987 in his RAS score. So he moves around just fine. I like when you watch his film, the way he picks things up. Like, you can see the intelligence, you can see him adjust, you can see him recover. The instincts are there, and he has a mean streak too in the run game. There was one clip I spotted early in this draft process doing my homework on him where, and I have it in our write-up on our Bears 100, defensive tackles need to keep their head on a swivel, because this is a guy that, and the same thing could be said about Darnell Wright last year. If he doesn't have work, he will find work, and he will crack you from the inside if you're not paying attention. And that happened to some very poor defensive tackles who were not necessarily paying attention, that just got smothered. So yes, I get it with the size. Maybe he moves inside because of it, but man, he checks all the other boxes across the board to stay outside. And worst case scenario, then you just have some versatility to work with.
That's not a bad thing to have. And man, I do love when he does find work. That's like the one quality when I'm watching these offensive linemen, like, okay, you don't have anybody in front of you. Oh, you just went and did something yourself. I love that, watching offensive line play. I'm going on the other side of the ball here, though, for another draft crush here, Adam. Going to the defensive line, and a guy that, is going to be one of the top picks in this upcoming draft, and that's Laiatu Latu, the UCLA edge defender, 6'4", 259, his 2023 stats, 49 tackles, 21.5 tackles for loss, 13 sacks, 2 forced fumbles, 2 interceptions, 4 passes defensed. And if you're looking for the best pass rusher in this draft, that's Laiatu Latu. I don't think, now, again, just getting to the quarterback, that's going to be him. He just has so many ways that he can find ways to beat opposing offensive linemen. If you go watch USC versus UCLA, watch what he did to the right guard and right tackle throughout the consistency of that game. It was insane. I felt bad for Caleb Williams as he's trying to run away, get off his mark, and Laiatu Latu just in the backfield. And this right guard, right tackle are looking at each other sometimes like, what the hell? What are we doing? We can't block this guy.
And that's one way to do it, Nick, is go look at any of Caleb Williams' highlights from that game, and he's running because of Latu. He's running for his life because of Laiatu Latu. Now, I guess you could maybe criticize Latu a little bit for not getting to him, but I mean, we're talking about good on good there. And yeah, it's like, why is he scrambling? Why is he going in hero mode? Well, because he has to, because Laiatu Latu's in the backfield in half a second.
Yeah, number 15 was causing some problems in that game. And obviously the big question with him, and it's going to be a big question for every NFL team that's considering him is just the medical history. He had to medically retire in 2021. And, I think if you're looking at the fit for the Bears, is he the best run defender out of these edge guys? No, he's not. But just the upside as a pass rusher, like if you're looking to put someone opposite of Montez Sweat that is just going to have, he's going to have a plan of attack when he goes against some of these offensive linemen. That's Laiatu Latu. I just love how he uses his hands. And, they put him inside at times too. So it's not like he's just solely a guy that plays outside on the edge. Like UCLA wasn't afraid to put him inside and let him go to work there as well. So he's just somebody that he also showed out at the Senior Bowl, and just watching him and how quick his hands were. I kind of described him like a ninja. And that's kind of what he's always stuck with me, like his attributes just with his hands. But yeah, he would be an interesting player to consider maybe at that 9 spot or a trade down scenario. But again, it all starts with the medicals. But Laiatu Latu definitely has a special place in my heart.
And that's the definition of these draft crushes. My last one that we're going to give, because we're each doing 3 here, I'm going with Ricky Pearsall, the wide receiver from Florida, 6'1", 191. So adequate size, not the best, but adequate size for sure. Maybe a little bit light on the weight end of things. But if you're watching on YouTube, you can see him making that ridiculous one-handed catch. This dude seriously has super glue on his hands, I think. And he shows it off whether you're watching tape, whether you're watching the Senior Bowl practices, whatever it is, he just catches everything, and he makes hard catches. Like the ball just seriously sticks to his hands. There's really nothing not to like, and he graded out unbelievably from the athleticism aspect of it. Again, RAS score was outstanding. Elite speed grade, elite agility grade, elite explosion grade. He's just okay on the size thing. That's really the only knock on him there. His 40 time was a 4.4. So no, checks that box. Even if he's not running 4.2 like Xavier Worthy, 4.4 is fine. The vertical stood out to 42-inch vertical on Ricky Pearsall. So not only does he have the ability to just catch everything, but he's getting up there too to make the catches. And I like this tweet. These are some of the things you can find in our Bears 100 database, by the way. All this information on all these prospects and a lot more, of course, if you're a CHGO diehard. But we also throw some tweets in that pop up from here and there throughout the draft process that include some highlights. But Jim Nagy, who, of course, runs the Senior Bowl, had this tweet back on February 18th. He said, wide receivers that translate to the NFL can do these 3 things. 1, win with the release, win at the break point, and then win at the catch point. And he said Gators wide receiver Ricky Pearsall did all of those things consistently at the Senior Bowl, locking himself into day 2. And then he's got highlights showing from practices showing it. And you do see it. He wins at the release. He can win at the break point on the route. And then everything I just told you about the catching, he'll beat you at the catch point too. So the more and more I watch Ricky Pearsall, I'm like, I don't see what's wrong with this guy. And to me, he has a little bit more upside than Ladd McConkey, who I like also. I think these are safe picks, both of these guys that we've talked about here, and I can't wait to see where Ricky Pearsall ends up. But if the Bears are only going to have that 3rd-round pick, I don't think he's still going to be there for him.
Yeah, no, and look, my love for Ricky Pearsall is well documented on this podcast, and I think, too, Florida's offense didn't do him any favors, too, just how they run things. So I think Ricky Pearsall even has more to show than what he's put on tape already at the college level.
Are you saying my guy Graham Mertz didn't, get it done for him? It's a very loose use of my guy there.
Yeah, very true. And also, Jared Verse had when they played that game against Florida State, my God, that Florida offense wasn't moving. And Ricky Pearsall, the one catch he had was, it was behind him, outstanding. Again, goes back to what you were saying. He catches literally everything. To round out our draft crushes here, I'm going back to the trenches, but I'm going to the offensive line this time. And we're going to the great state of Kansas. Kansas State's Cooper Beebe, the 6'3", 322-pound
look at that man.
Left guard. Look at that. That is just a beautiful specimen right there. Didn't miss a game over the last 3 seasons, 40 starts. And I went and watched the entire Kansas State-Texas game because obviously Texas has a few draft picks in this upcoming draft, and Byron Murphy and T'Vondre Sweat. Those guys were able to impact the game, but not against Cooper Beebe. He had a pretty, he stood his own when facing two very different types of defensive players, and Murphy with his quickness, and then T'Vondre Sweat, which is his overall size. But I really love the physicality that Cooper Beebe plays with. But also, look, he's not the fastest when he's asked to pull and get to the edge to block, but he gets the job done. And I do like that about offensive linemen. It's not how you do it, it's just can you do it? And for the most part, like, Cooper was making those blocks and executing them at a high rate, but it's the physicality that he plays with, the anchor that he shows when he's facing, you know, a guy like T'Vondre Sweat that's going to be bigger than probably most players he's going to face in the NFL, but also the quickness that he would have to be able to adjust with when facing a guy like Byron Murphy. So I think he's a guy that could fit multiple different schemes. So if this wide zone scheme that the Bears run, yeah, I think he could fit that. But Cooper, just his physicality, I think, stands out, and just, I like a guy that also is available. And again, he was available for Kansas State offensive line for really the majority of his career, but specifically the last 3 seasons.
And all these guys available again on the Bears 100 board. I'll run through where they show up for you. Jackson PowersJohnson, number 11 right now. Leatu Latu, one of the Knicks guys, at number 17. Troy Fatanu at number 20. Ladd McConkey at 23. Ricky Pearsall at 32. And then Nick's last guy there, Cooper Beebe, at number 45. So all these guys also showing up in our top, 45, not even top 50, top 45. All these guys you can find on our Bears draft board.
We all silly like the mayor.